we have seen what is a signal flow graph, how we calculate the transfer function from the signal flow graph or from the by using block diagram reduction technique that we already see in the previous lecture. Also, we have seen the time response, what is transient, what is steady state response. Now, in continuing with this, what is the type of the system? The type of the system is very important. It is defined as the number of poles of loop transfer function, that is GSHS at origin. जितने origin पे poles रहेंगे या roots रहेंगे GSHS के, that is called a type of the system. For example, here I consider GSHS is k into s plus z1 divided by s to the power n. You all know the denominator gives the poles, and here h of s is 1. So since if n is equals to 0, when there is no poles on the origin, we can say that the system is type 0 system. The order of the system may be 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, but the type of the system is 0. Okay, if the value of n is 1, then we can say that it is type 1 system, and if the value is 2, we can say that the system is type 2. Okay, therefore the type of the system is equal to the number of poles present in the open loop transfer function, that is GSHS, that is number of integral terms in open loop transfer function. So that is the type. You all know the order of the system. Order of the system is nothing but it is the highest power of S in the characteristic equation or in the denominator of the closed loop transfer function. Whereas the type of the system is nothing but number of poles at origin of loop transfer function, that is GSHS at origin. Then the new term is steady state errors. You all know one of the important design specification for a control system is the steady state error. The steady state output of any system should be as close to a desired output as possible. If suppose if I have given a system input of step of unit 1, then my output should be 1, or it is close to 1. And the difference between 1 and that output is nothing but a steady state error or error. If it deviates from this desired output, the performance of the system is not satisfactory under steady state condition. The steady state error reflects the accuracy of the system. So among many reasons for these errors, the most important ones are the type of the input, which type of input it is step, it is ramp, it is parabolic, or the type of the system, it is 0, 1, 2, 3, and the nonlinearity is present in the system. Since the actual input in a physical system is often a random signal, the steady state errors are obtained for the standard test signals, namely step input, ramp, and parabolic signal. So let us consider a feedback control system. You can see on your screen a feedback control system with G of S is the forward path and H of S is the feedback path. The output of the comparator or the error detector is E of S. So from this block diagram, we can say that the error signal E of S is given by R of S minus this CS HS. Okay. Since the feedback is negative, it is minus. But you know what is C of S? C of S is G of S into E of S. So therefore, after calculation, we got the value of E of S, which is equals to R of S by 1 plus GSHS. Hence, when we apply the final value theorem, we can get the steady state error ESS as the final value theorem is nothing but it is limit S tends to 0 S times E of S. And after substituting the value, we can get the steady state error, or the formula for steady state error is limit S tends to 0 S times R of S 1 plus GSHS. Okay, so from this equation or from this the formula for ESS or formula for steady state error, the steady state error, we can find the following conclusion, that the steady state depends on the following factors, and they are depend on a forward path transfer function, that is G of S. Steady state error depends on feedback transfer function, that is H of S. It is also depend on the type of the system, that is S. The type of the system, R of S. The type of the system may be step, it may be ramp, it may be parabolic, and also the type of the system. Okay. So it depends on four factors: forward path, feedback path, type of the system, type of the input. Step, parabolic ramp is the type of the input, whereas type of the system is maybe 0, 1, 2, 3 and so on. Okay. So this is the formula for calculating the steady state error, that is limit s tends to 0, s times rs by 1 plus gshs. The equation, that equation SR of S by 1 plus GSHS shows that the steady state error is a function of the input R of S and the open loop transfer function G of S if the value of feedback is 1. Let us consider various standard test signals and we can obtain the steady state error for these inputs. So you all know for a step or position input. Step input is also called position input. So for a step or for a unit step or position input, R of t is 1. So therefore, the Laplace transform of 1 is 1 by s. Hence, we substitute this value in that equation of steady state error. In place of R of s, we have to substitute 1 of s. In that case, we will give a new value. That value we have defined as a position error constant Kp, and Kp is nothing but this limit s tends to 0 GSHS. The approximately this Kp is equals to limit s tends to 0 GSHS. Okay, and the Kp is called position error constant, or this is also called static error constant. So there are three static error constant. Out of three, one is position error constant, and the formula for position error constant is limit s tends to 0 GSHS. Therefore, in terms of the position error constant, if I have to write the steady state error, then it is equals to 1 by 1 plus Kp. Okay, the ESSS steady state error for position error constant or for unit step input, it is 1 by 1 plus Kp, where Kp is the position error constant and the formula for position error constant is limit s tends to 0 GSHS. Suppose my input is a velocity input or it is a unit ramp. So in that case, the Laplace transform of unit ramp is, you all know, is 1 by s square. And then we have to substitute this value of 1 by s, R of s in equation of steady state error. We get E of ss is equals to limit s tends to 0, 1 by s plus s GSHS. And when s tends to 0, so we will get the formula 1 by s into GSHS, of course, with limit s tends to 0. Again, defining the velocity error constant for step, we get Kp. For velocity error constant, we will get Kv. Kv is called velocity error constant, and the formula for velocity error constant is limit s tends to 0, s times GSHS. Or when I substitute the value of Kv in the equation of ESS, we got the formula ESS is equal to 1 by Kv. What is the conclusion? Conclusion is that for unit ramp input or for velocity input, the formula for steady state error is 1 by Kv, where Kv is the, again, it is the one of the static error constant, and that is called velocity error constant, or it is denoted as Kv. The third type of input is, suppose, unit parabolic, or you all know it, unit parabolic is also known as acceleration input. For that, the Laplace transform of that is 1 by s cube. After substituting the value of 1 by s cube in the equation of steady state error, we got the formula ESS is equal to 1 by limit s tends to 0 s square GSHS. Then here we take the new terms Ka. K is nothing but acceleration error constant, and the formula for acceleration error constant is limit s tends to 0 s square GSHS, or steady state error is equals to 1 by Kv. So for various types of input, we can find the steady state error. These are all the test signals. Okay. Or if I make that table, then steady state error for various types of various inputs and type of system, you can see ESS. These are the standard inputs are unit step, unit velocity, and unit acceleration. And the formula for type 0, that is when there is no pole at origin, that is called type 0. And when for type 0, that is when the system is given a unit step input. The formula for ESS is 1 by 1 plus Kv, and the Kp, and the formula for Kp is limit s tends to GSHS. Here I assume h of s is equals to 1, that is unity feedback. So in that case, the only Kp is present that for type 1, it is steady state error is 0. For type 2, steady state error is again 0. That is, when there is position error, when there is step input, the only static error constant present is Kp. Then suppose I have to give a unit ramp. So for unit ramp, Kp is infinity. Then there is a constant value of ESS. Again, your acceleration error constant is 0. For unit acceleration, infinity, kV. So what is the conclusion? The conclusion is that as I increase the type of the system, more and more steady state error goes on decreasing. It can be seen from the table. As the type of the... One second. Hello? आनंद हाँ ठीक है. It can be seen from the table. It can be seen from the table. As the type of the system and hence the number of integration increases, more and more steady state error becomes 0. Hence, it may appear that it is better to design a system with more and more poles at origin. But if the type of the system is higher than 2, the system tends to be more unstable and dynamic error tends to be larger. Or as you can see, as the type of the system becomes higher, more steady state error eliminated. For a given input, the steady state error goes on reducing as the type of the system increases. But though the increase in a type of system reduces the steady state error, what will happen? It increases the order of the system. And because of increase of order of system, the stability margin of system reduces. As we increase the order of the system or as we increase the number of poles, the stability margin reduces. So in other words, improvement of steady state error, it is at the cost of reduction in stability margin of the system. So this is the conclusion of this table. Now we have seen controllers. The controllers, you all know, a second order control system is required to satisfy 3 main specifications, namely peak overshoot to a step input MP, settling time TS, and steady state accuracy. The system performance is evaluated from its transient response and steady state response. A system is said to have good transient response if it has lesser value of overshoot, that is MP, and lesser settling time, that is TS. In other words, the value of damping ratio should be larger, because MP is depend on the damping ratio, settling time is depend on the damping ratio. The system is said to have a satisfactory steady state response if it has a lower value of steady state error, that is ESS. So most of the time, the system does not have the satisfactory transient response and a satisfactory steady state response. In order to improve the response of the system, the following control strategies are incorporated in the system in addition to proportional feedback. And you all know the formula for damping ratio, you know the value of settling time 4 by zeta omega n. You also know the formula for this ESS, which is equals to 1 by kV. So let us examine the limitation in choosing the parameter of a type 1 second order system to satisfy all the design specifications. Okay, thus the transient behavior of the system is not so, hence suitable compensation schemes must be designed so that the dynamic response improve. So some control schemes used in industries are discussed in the next section. The first is suppose our proportional derivative error controller, or it is also called as a PD controller. The use of PD controller is to improve the damping ratio, or we have to add the damping ratio value or increase the damping ratio value. And if I increase the value of damping ratio zeta, then of course settling time is reduced, your maximum overshoot is also reduced. So for second order type 1 system, suppose our G of S is suppose K dash V by S into T of S plus 1. And here a general block diagram of a system with a controller you can see on your screen. So by choosing different configuration for the controller transfer function GC of S, we get a different control scheme where this G of S is for system or plant and this GC of S is for controller. Then that controller is PD controller. The input to the controller is termed as error signal. You also see on your figure, or most appropriately actuating signal. The output of the controller is called the manipulating variable M of S, and it is the signal given as input to the system or plant. Thus we have MT. After solving this, we can get this value. The manipulating value is suppose Kp into 1 plus Kd S into E of S. Or after substituting the value, you all know when two blocks are in cascade, then their equivalence is multiplication of 2. Then after multiplication, we get a new value of this value is Kp into 1 plus Kd of S Kv, or the closed loop transfer function. After solving this, we will get this. Okay, so this is omega square n by S square plus 2 zeta omega ns plus omega square n. Or if we define Kv is equals to Kp into Kv, then my equation is T of S, you can see. Okay, so from that, what is the conclusion? The conclusion is that the damping ratio without derivative feedback is zeta. And after derivative control, our new damping ratio is zeta 1. So you can see the new zeta after introduction of derivative control become zeta plus Kd by 2 into under root of Kv by 2. Means your damping ratio is increased. Your damping ratio is increased by the value Kd by 2 into under root of Kv by tau, where Kv by tau, under root of Kv by tau is nothing but omega n. Okay, so derivative control or rate control are used to improve the transient response of the system. That is, the value of damping ratio is increased due to this control. Okay, you can see. After introduction of derivative control, our damping ratio zeta becomes zeta dash and it becomes increased. And if I substitute this increased value of zeta in equation of Ts, which is by 4 by zeta omega n, and divide by zeta is, if zeta is increased, okay, then T of S is reduced. And similarly, your maximum overshoot is also reduced. So hence we can say that by introducing PD controller, we can improve the transient response of the system. Similarly, if the integral control is used to improve the steady state accuracy. Okay, if I introduce the integral control with proportional control, the integral control is used to improve the steady state response of the system. The PI controller is used to improve the steady state performance of the system. That is to reduce the steady state error. Okay, the steady state error, how it increases the steady state error? By increasing the type of the system. If I increase the type of the system, naturally, the more and more steady state error goes on eliminated. If the amplifier in the forward path is redesigned to include an integrator in place of derivative, if I introduce the integrator, then You can see the type becomes 3. In previous, the type is 2. Here the type is second, 2. Here the type is 3. We observe that the type of the system is changed from type 1 to type 2, and hence the steady state error for a unit velocity input is reduced to 0. Hence, an integral controller is usually preferred wherever the steady state accuracy is important. But the dynamics of the system cannot be easily obtained. As the system order is increased, you all know, as the order of the system is increased from 2 to 3 because of the introduction of integral control. Though with the introduction of integral control, your steady state response is increased, but your stability margin is reduced. Okay. So this is the integral control. With the introduction of integral control, we can improve the steady state response of the system. Then the PID controller. Generally, the industrial control are usually PID because improvement in both the transient performance as well as steady state performance is required. The derivative control will improve the transient performance, whereas integrative control will improve steady state performance. Here I use all proportional, derivative and integral. Multiply by S, but derivative divide by S is integral. Okay, and you can see on your screen, integral control eliminates steady state error due to velocity input, but its effect on dynamic response is difficult to predict. The system order increases to 3. We have seen that a derivative term in the forward path improves the damping of the system. Hence, a suitable combination of integral and derivative control results in a proportional, integral and derivative control, usually called PID control. The transfer function of the PID control is given by all GC of S is Kp into 1 plus KdS Ki by S. Okay, so this is proportional, this is PD, this is PI. And from this, so by proper choice of Kp, Kd and Ki result in satisfactory transient and steady state responses. The process of choosing proper Kp, Kd and Ki for a given system is known as tuning of a PID controller. So this is all about your controller. So there are PD controller, there are PI controller, there are PID controller. Then we have to move to the stability of the system. The stability is very important terminology in the control system. Okay, or stability is said to be, or a system is said to be stable if for a bounded input, the output is bounded and the output tends to 0 in the absence of input, irrespective of amount of initial condition. You can see on your screen. Any system is called as a stable system if the output of the system is bounded for any bounded input. Any signal is called bounded if the maximum and minimum values are finite. So here bounded input, if I consider a system, if I give the system bounded input, then my output should be bounded. This, for example, this is a bounded this is unbounded. This is unbounded, this is bounded. The stability of any system depends only on the location of poles, but not on the location of zeros. And if the poles are located, if the poles are located in left-hand side of S-plane, then the system is stable. If the roots are located on imaginary axis, which are repeated, then the system is unstable. If any pole is located in right half of S-plane, then the system is unstable. So as pole approaches origin, stability decreases because the imaginary axis is the boundary between stability and instability. Okay. The system stability, you all know, can be classified as absolute stability. It may be conditional stability or it may be a relative stability. A system is said to be absolute stable with respect to a parameter of the system if it is stable for all values of the parameter. A system is said to be conditional stable if it is stable for only certain bounded ranges of values of the parameter. There is conditional stability. And then relative stability is nothing but relative stability is a quantitative measure of how fast the transient die out in the system. So this is the definition of the system. There are stability. There are three types of stability we can observe in the control system. Number one, absolute. Number two, conditional. And number three, a relative stability. It may be noted that absolute stability is a qualitative measure of stability, whereas the relative stability is a quantitative measure of stability. And then there are various techniques that we have to use to calculate stability, and they are Rouse stability criteria, Hurwitz stability criteria, root locus technique, Bode plot method, Nyquist plot, or Nichols chart. Okay, there are various methods. By using that method, you can find the stability of the control system or of any system. Okay, we can see a nature of if we can find when all the roots of characteristic equation lies on left half of the plane. Here you can see all the roots are lie on the left half of the plane. The system is stable. The system is stable. And even if there is one root in the right half of S-plane, the system is unstable. You can see if there is poles or roots on the right hand side of S-plane, the system is unstable. Okay. Complex conjugate with negative real part, that is in LHS of S-plane. You can see the poles on LHS, no problem. System is absolute stable. If there is poles on right hand side, system is absolute unstable. If there are complex poles with a positive real part, system is unstable. If there are poles when there are multiple roots on j omega axis, the system is unstable. When there are multiple roots on j omega axis, the system is unstable. For non-repeated roots on j omega axis and other roots on left half of S-plane, the system is stable. You can see there are two poles, but they are not repeating. System is critically stable, or we can see marginally stable. Okay. If there are repeated roots on j omega axis, we can say that system is unstable. This is the stability, how we identify the system is stable or unstable. If by locating the poles or roots, poles and roots are the same words, same meaning. Okay, so there are various methods of investigation of system stability. Okay, so out of that, the one of the method is Rautz-Hurwitz criteria. Rautz-Hurwitz criteria. So this represent a method of this criteria represents a method of determining the location of poles of a characteristic equation with respect to the left half of the plane, right half of the plane, and without actually solving the equation. Here we did not find to the actual location of the roots. By finding the number of roots on right hand side or left hand side or on j omega axis, we can find the stability of the system. Okay. So for that, to determine the root locus technique, we have to find the characteristic equation of the system. And suppose if the standard characteristic equation is suppose this A0 as to the, you all know the denominator of the closed loop transfer function is nothing but the characteristic equation of the system. So for that, we have to equate f of s with 0. This equation is called characteristic equation. In some book, there is q of s. Here, it is f of s, but in various books, they represent the characteristic equation with q of s. And suppose if the roots of if the standard characteristic equation is suppose a0 s to the power n plus a1 s to the power n minus 1 and so on up to an. Thus the roots, here the order of the system is n, means there are n number of roots. Thus, the roots of the characteristic equation are the closed loop poles of the system. I again tell you, roots and poles are the same terminology. So, in order that the above characteristic equation has no root in right half of S-plane, it is necessary but not sufficient. That's why it is called the condition. There are two conditions by using Rao's stability. First is necessary but not sufficient condition for the system stability. The necessary but not sufficient for the system stability is that all the coefficient, that is A0, A1, A2 up to AN, must have same sign. You can see the coefficient A0, A1, A2 up to AN for the system stability, all these coefficients should have same sign. And none of the coefficients should have zero value. ठीक है, तो A0 के बाद AN होना चाहिए, A2 होना चाहिए और कोई भी कोएफिशिएंट की वैल्यू जीरो नहीं होना चाहिए. That is the necessary but not sufficient. The necessary but not sufficient condition दो है. एक condition है कि all the coefficient of the polynomials have the same sign, or all the coefficients should have same sign, and none of the coefficients should have zero value. That is, all power of s must be present in descending order from n to 0. Suppose if my order of the system is 4, then there should be s to the power 4, s to the power 3, s to the power 2, s to the power 1, s to the power 0, and none of the coefficients should have negative value. If my equation is suppose 4s4 plus 3s square plus 2s cube plus 3s plus 4, then I have to check whether all the sign has positive. Then after verifying these two conditions, I have to move forward. If this two condition, necessary condition, is not satisfied, then do not apply any method. You directly say that the system is unstable. Since it does not satisfy the necessary condition, system is unstable. Okay, this is the necessary but not sufficient. The necessary and sufficient condition for the closed loop system to be stable is that there should not be any sign change in the first column of Routh's array. You all know how to construct the first column of Routh's array. If there are sign changes in the first column of Routh's array, the system is unstable. If there are any sign changes existing, then system is unstable. The number of sign changes in the first column of Routh's array equal the number of roots or of characteristic equation or closed loop poles in right hand side of S plane. अगर फर्स्ट कॉलम ऑफ राउथ्स एरे में एक बार भी साइन चेंज हो रहा है तो वी कैन से दैट द सिस्टम इज अनस्टेबल. और जितने बार साइन चेंज होंगे उतने नंबर ऑफ पोल्स या नंबर ऑफ रूट्स राइट हैंड साइड में रहेंगे. तो बाय फ्रॉम दिस you can, or by constructing the Routh's array, you can comment on the stability of the system. So suppose here I take the example. Here I take a two example. The first example is suppose s cube plus 6s square. S cube plus 6s square plus 11s plus 6. Now here the order of the system, you can see the order of the system is 3. So we have to construct the Routh's array. So it is s cube, s square, s to the power 0. The first coefficient is 1. So we have to, in the first row, we have to take alternate. So 1, 11 in first row, 6 and 3. It should be here. It is 6. Okay. Then the next is 6 into 66 minus 6 divided by 6 is 10. This is 0, 6. So you can see this also satisfies the necessary condition. All the coefficient has a positive sign. None of the coefficient have negative value. Then after satisfying the necessary condition, we have to go for sufficient condition. Here there are no sign change in the first column of Routh's array. We can say the system is stable. System is stable. There are no sign changes in the first column of Routh's array. We can say the system is stable. Whereas in the right hand side, the equation is s cube plus 4s square plus s. This is, I think this is 4s. No, this is s cube plus 4s square plus s plus 16. So necessary condition is satisfied. all the coefficient has same sign, none of the coefficient have zero value, तो necessary condition satisfy कर रही है, but जरूरी नहीं है कि system stable हो. Okay, so after verifying the necessary condition, we have to check the sufficient condition. So by applying the Rouse array or by constructing the Rouse array, order of the system is 3, the 1, 1 and S square 4, 6. So you can see here, this is first column 1, 4, minus 3, plus 6. So you can see how many times of sign changes are there. There are 2 types. Plus 4 से minus 3 एक बार sign change हुआ, minus 3 से plus 16 दो बार sign change हुआ. तो यहाँ पे रूट्स थे, ऑर्डर ऑफ द सिस्टम 3 थे, तो देयर आर 3 पोल्स और रूट्स, तो वो 3 में से 2 कहाँ चले गए? सिंस देयर आर 2 टाइम्स साइन आर चेंजेस, द सिस्टम इज अनस्टेबल. तो एज देयर आर 2 साइन चेंजेस इन द फर्स्ट कॉलम ऑफ राउस एरे, द सिस्टम इज अनस्टेबल. और कितने पोल्स और रूट्स राइट हैंड साइड में है? Number of roots of the right hand side of S plane is equals to number of sign changes. So there are number of sign changes as 2 or R2. The number of roots located in the right half of S plane is equals to 2. That's why it is called necessary but not sufficient condition. Then now there are some special cases or difficulties faced during computation of Rouse's array. So, or they can also say that it is also said that it is special cases in computation of Rouse array. The first is the first difficulty when the first term is in any of the row is 0 while rest of the row is but remaining element in that row are not all 0. ठीक है, तो in this case Rouse test will break down because of a division by 0. In such a case we have to substitute S is equals to 1 by X in the original characteristic equation and obtain the characteristic equation in X plane. Now applied Rouse stability criteria to the characteristic equation in X plane as usual. Then number of S roots in the RHS of S plane is equals to number of sign changes in Rouse array. Here also I take one example. When जब हम राउस एरे बना रहे हैं तो हमने व्हाट वी फाइंड दैट कि फर्स्ट एलिमेंट रो तो है लेकिन रो का 0 नहीं है, तो इन दैट केस हमारा राउस एरे ब्रेक डाउन हो जाएगा बिकॉज इन द नेक्स्ट रो वी हैव टू डिवाइड बाय 0 इट विल इन्फिनिटी हो जाएगा. तो राउस एरे, तो इन दैट हमारा क्वेश्चन को वहीं पे रोक देना है और क्या करना है? इन दैट केस वी हैव टू सब्स्टिट्यूट S इज इक्वल्स टू 1 by X इन द ओरिजिनल कैरेक्टरिस्टिक. यहाँ पे एक अलग मेथड लिया है. अब ये कि you have to substitute S is equal to 1 by X in the, or 1 by Z in the original characteristic equation. जब आप S is equal to 1 by X और S is equal to 1 by Z original equation में substitute कर दोगे तो हमारा जो नया characteristic equation वो in terms of Z रहेगा या in terms of X रहेगा. Order of the system वही रहेगा. Okay, और after calculating new characteristic equation again we have to apply the Rouse stability criteria or we have to construct the Rouse array but in X plane or in Z plane. और अगर वो पूरे के पूरे पोल्स एक बार भी साइन चेंज नहीं है तो सिस्टम इज स्टेबल, और साइन चेंज हुआ तो वी कैन से द सिस्टम इज अनस्टेबल. और जितने बार भी साइन चेंज होगा वी से दैट द नंबर ऑफ रूट्स on right hand side of S plane is equals to number of sign changes in the Rouse array. So this is the first difficulty. The difficulty 2 or the second difficulty is the row of zeros. इससे जो फर्स्ट डिफिकल्टी थी वो सिर्फ पहला एलिमेंट 0 था, रिमेनिंग एलिमेंट नॉन 0 था, लेकिन अगर रो की रो 0 हो गई, ठीक है, तो केस 2 रो ऑफ zeros. तो इन दिस केस all the element in a row are 0. When all the element in any row of the Rouse array are 0, this signifies that there are symmetrically located rows in S plane, that is roots of j omega roots on j omega axis, or equal roots with opposite sign or complex conjugate roots forming a quadrat in S plane. तो when all the elements in any row of the row is 0, और जनरली कौन सी रो होगी? जनरली ऑड पावर ऑफ S 0 होगी. इवन पावर कभी भी 0 नहीं होता. ऑड पावर ऑफ S to the power 1, S to the power 3, S to the power 5 and so on. So what is the remedy of this? The remedy of this, or to overcome this difficulty, we have to construct an auxiliary polynomial. Auxiliary polynomial, AE bolo ya A of S bolo. An auxiliary polynomial is obtained from the coefficient of a row just above the row of 0. We have to construct an auxiliary polynomial. Now obtain differentiation of that auxiliary polynomial and replace the row of zeros by coefficient of a polynomial obtained from dAE by ds, and proceed with the computation of Routh's array as usual. Again, I am telling, it may be noted that the roots of auxiliary equation, that is A of S or AE of S is equals to 0, are also the roots of original characteristic equation. And what is the reason for special case? If some or all of the characteristic equation roots are symmetrical with respect to origin, then the odd power of row, that is s to the power 1, s to the power 3, or s to the power 5, becomes 0 in right hand in Routh-Hurwitz tabulation. These symmetrical roots are also the roots of the auxiliary equation. Okay, here I consider one example. The order of the system is 6. So I have to construct the Routh array x6, x5, s4, s3, alternate coefficient 1, 8, 20, 16. 2, 12, 16. Then here I find that s to the power 3 रो becomes 0. ठीक है, जो s to the power 3 की रो थी, ऑड पावर ऑफ s 0 होगा, तो जो s क्यूब वाली रो थी वो 0 हो गई. नाउ जैसे मुझे पता चला कि मेरी s क्यूब वाली रो 0 हो गई, व्हाट वी हैव टू डू, आई हैव टू कंस्ट्रक्ट अ ऑक्सिलरी इक्वेशन. अब ऑक्सिलरी इक्वेशन किससे बनेगा? जो उसके अबव वाला रो है. तो s क्यूब के अबव वाला था s to the power 4, तो मेरा ऑक्सिलरी इक्वेशन बन गया a of s is equals to. अब इसको ऑक्सिलरी इक्वेशन कैसे बनाते हैं? देखो, 2 s to the power 4, फिर अल्टरनेट लेना है, तो 4 के बाद 3 स्किप करना है, 2, 12s स्क्वायर, 12s स्क्वायर, फिर s to the power 1 0 करना है, 16s 0, मतलब 16. नाउ दिस इज अवर ऑक्सिलरी इक्वेशन. नाउ वी हैव टू डिफरेंशिएट दिस, तो इट इज 8s क्यूब प्लस 24s, तो 8s क्यूब प्लस 24s, तो मेरा s क्यूब की क्या कोएफिशिएंट हो जाएगा? 8 और 24. एंड नाउ वी हैव टू प्रोसीड विथ एज यूजुअल. ठीक है, और स्टेप जब मैं ऑक्सिलरी के नो साइन चेंज, सो सिस्टम में बी स्टेबल, बट एज देयर इज अ रो ऑफ 0, सिस्टम विल बी मार्जिनली स्टेबल और अनस्टेबल. अब हमको साइन चेंज नहीं हुआ तो वी कैन से दैट द सिस्टम इज स्टेबल है, लेकिन सिस्टम मार्जिनली स्टेबल है क्या, ये चेक करना है, क्योंकि जब ऐसा रो ऑफ 0 आएगा तो वहां पे कॉम्प्लेक्स कॉन्जुगेट पोल्स आएंगे. ओके, तो कॉम्प्लेक्स कॉन्जुगेट पोल्स कहां से मिलेंगे? ऑक्सिलरी इक्वेशन को 0 करना पड़ेगा. ओके, तो बाय डिफरेंशिएटिंग दैट, तो यहाँ पे हमने जब रूट्स निकाल दिया तो एक आ गया प्लस माइनस जे अंडर रूट 2 है, प्लस माइनस जे 1 2 3 4. तो जितने जो भी ऑक्सिलरी इक्वेशन के उतने पोल्स हमारे इमेजिनरी एक्सिस पे आ गए. नॉन रिपीटेड, सिंस द रूट्स आर नॉन रिपीटेड है, दो दे आर ऑन जियोमेट्रिक एक्सिस बट दे आर नॉन रिपीटेड, वी कैन से दैट सिस्टम इज मार्जिनली स्टेबल. तो जब भी रो ऑफ 0 रहेगी, सिस्टम क्या रहेगा? मार्जिनली स्टेबल रहेगा. तो दिस इज द सेकेंड केस. दिस इज द सेकेंड difficulty or row of 0. What is the limitation of Routh-Hurwitz? The Routh-Hurwitz method is valid only if the characteristic equation is algebraic and its coefficients are real. The method or the Routh-Hurwitz method gives the information only on the absolute stability, and system does not give any information on the relative stability of the system. The Routh-Hurwitz method gives the number of roots in the left half S plane, right half of S plane, or on geometric axis. However, this slide is important. However, it does not indicate the nature of roots, real है और complex है, which are located in the left half of plane or right half of S plane. This is the limitations of the Routh's stability criteria. Here I consider one numerical also. The characteristic equation of feedback control system is given by so equation S4 plus 20 S2 plus 15 S2 plus 2S plus K. And the question is asked, determine the range of value of K for the system to be stable. Can the system be marginally stable? If so, find the required value of K and the frequency of sustained oscillation. ये सब न्यूमेरिकल ऑलरेडी आप लोगों ने कर चुके होंगे. Like ऐसा कोई अगर प्रॉब्लम आया तो we have to construct the Rouse array. We have to make one row 0. तो यहाँ पे देखो, for the system to be stable, K should be greater than 0. अब इसको तो 0 नहीं बना सकता, तो मुझे इसको 0 बनाना पड़ेगा. Okay, तो what is the stability? What is the range of stability for K? K should be greater than 0, but it is less than 1.49. And to find the frequency of sustained oscillation, I have to make one row 0. तो किसको 0 बनाना पड़ेगा? इसको 0 बनाना पड़ेगा. Okay, so that we can find the frequency of sustained oscillations. Sustained oscillation मतलब पेंडुलम. K की वैल्यू पेंडुलम है, चेंज होती जा रही है. फॉर okay, marginally stable. So this is about the stability of the system. So one of the method is Hurwitz stability criteria. The Hurwitz stability criteria is nothing but it is also the Hurwitz stability criteria. In Hurwitz stability criteria, what we have to find? We have to find the determinants, the calculation of determinants. If I have to, but the disadvantage of Hurwitz stability is that as the order of the system becomes larger and larger, we have to find the more and more determinants, and that's why that method is generally not used. If the order of the system is 2 or 3, then it's okay. We have to find 3 determinants. If the order of the system is 5, 6, in that case, we have to apply a Rouse stability criteria to determine the stability of the system. Then the next is root locus. Root locus is also one of the method to find the stability of the system. By using this method, we also find the stability of the system. Okay, the root locus method was the root locus technique. The root locus technique is nothing but root locus is defined as the plot of loci of closed loop poles or roots of characteristic equation when one or more parameters of the open loop transfer function is varied from 0 to infinity. और कौन से varied होता है? Generally, usually gain K of the system is varied. So here we have to find two conditions. For any point to lie on root locus, it must satisfy two conditions. Number 1, magnitude condition, and number 2, angle condition. Okay, so generally, or if I have to construct a root locus, so there are generally 7 to 8 steps that are required. So first information is required, that is GSHS. GHSS. The given is GSHS. That is loop transfer. Here I do not require 1 plus GHSS or closed loop transfer function नहीं चाहिए. Root locus के लिए चाहिए GSHS. So get the general information about number of open loop poles, zeros, number of branches, etc. from GSHS. ठीक है? तो first step, you all know starting points, that is K is equals to 0 points. हमको root locus कैसे बन रहा है? By varying the gain K. तो K is equals to 0 point कहाँ रहता है? K is equals to 0 points are on poles of GHSS. Okay, so hence K is equals to 0 points. Root locus are poles of GHSS. In other words, we can say that root locus will start from poles of GHSS. पोल रूट लोकस कहाँ से स्टार्ट होता है? रूट लोकस पोल से स्टार्ट होता है और कहाँ टर्मिनेट होता है? टुवर्ड्स इंफिनिटी, टुवर्ड्स 0. तो पोल पे K की वैल्यू रहती है 0 और 0 पे K की वैल्यू रहती है इंफिनिटी. टर्मिनेटिंग पॉइंट, that is K is equal to infinity points, are on the zeros of GHSS. That is, root locus will terminate at zeros of GHSS. So here you can see that we have to draw the pole zero plot. We find the number of poles, we find the number of zeros. Then we have to mark the pole position, zero position on. ठीक है. After that, the third step is to find the number of separate root loci. कितने हैं, कितने रूट लोकस के लोसाई निकलने वाले हैं. इट डिपेंड्स ऑन n. अगर जो ज्यादा रहेंगे, अगर पोल्स ज्यादा है तो नंबर ऑफ सेपरेट रूट लोसाई, नंबर ऑफ पोल्स रहेंगे. अगर जीरोस ज्यादा है तो नंबर ऑफ जीरोस रहेंगे. देन you all know the root loci are symmetrical with respect to the real axis of S plane, and this is because the fraction complex root, the rational fraction or the rational function fraction complex roots always occur in pair, that is they are conjugate. जो आप, इसका मतलब क्या है कि आपका जो अपर क्वाड्रेंट का जो आपका लोकस रहेगा वही आपका मिरर इमेज लोअर क्वाड्रेंट में रहेगा. देन आफ्टर दैट वी हैव टू फाइंड द asymptotes. asymptotes, तो asymptotes मतलब क्या है? नंबर वन वी हैव टू फाइंड द नंबर ऑफ asymptotes. कितने नंबर ऑफ asymptotes हैं? तो वो इसका फॉर्मूला है p minus z, where p is the number of finite poles and z is the number of finite zeros. Then after that we have to find angle of asymptotes. तो for angle of asymptotes का फॉर्मूला है it is 2m plus 1 divided by p minus z into pi. So where m is equal to 0, 1 up to p minus z minus 1. Then after that we have to find centroid. After that we have to find the root locus on real axis. So on the given section of root real axis, the root loci may be found in the section only if the total number of poles and zeros of GHHS to the right of X plane is on odd function. Then angle of departure we have to find, angle of arrival. यहाँ पे important, the angle of departure or arrival from complex poles or zeros can be determined by applying the angle condition. और ये कहाँ, ये step कब लगती है? This step should be used only when GHHS has got some complex poles or zeros. अगर complex poles और zeros नहीं है तो कोई भी जरूरत नहीं है angle of departure or angle of arrival find करने की. After that we have to find the intersection of root loci with imaginary axis, और इसके लिए we have to apply the Rao's stability criteria. This can be found by application of Rao's stability criteria, and the value of gain k at the point of intersection with geometric axis will also be known from Rao's stability criteria. Then after that we have to find breakaway point or break-in point. The point of the root locus where multiple roots or roots of higher order than one of the characteristic equation are found are called the breakaway point of the root. Okay, the breakaway point can be found by using the equation d of ds by gshs equals to 0. However, it may be noted that all the solution of this breakaway point or break-in point is not be necessarily with the breakaway point. कौन सा पॉइंट ब्रेकअवे का रहेगा? जो रूट लोकस पे रहेगा. ओके, so this is all the general steps to sketch the root locus. Generally there are 7 to 8 steps, and we can predict the stability and performance of the given system by using the root locus technique. So here I assume one, or I consider one simple example. For a unity feedback system GHHS k by s into s plus 4 into s plus 2, we have to sketch the rough nature of the root locus, showing all details in it and comment on the stability of the system. Now we have to comment on the stability. The first step, since you all know numerator में zeros, denominator poles. The order of the system is 3. So there are 3 poles. There are 3 poles. Poles कहाँ पे है? S is equal to 0 पे, S is equal to -2 और S is equal to -4. पर 0 एक भी नहीं है. ठीक है? तो poles P is equals to 3. तो here आए, यहाँ पे मैंने 3 poles मार्क कर दिया. एक 0 पे मार्क कर दिया पोल को, एक 0 पे मार्क कर दिया, एक -2 पे, एक -4 पे, और 0 एक भी नहीं है. तो रूट लोकस कहाँ से स्टार्ट होगा? रूट लोकस पोल से स्टार्ट होगा, और टर्मिनेट कहाँ पे होगा? टर्मिनेट होगा 0 पे. रूट लोकस विल स्टार्ट एट A is equals to 0 poles of GSHS, and it terminates at, okay, it terminates at zeros. So K is equals to 0 points are at poles of GHHS, that is at S 0, -2, -4, and K is equal to infinity points are at zeros of GHHS, that is at S is equal to infinity, infinity, infinity. So number of finite poles हो गए 3, number of finite zeros हो गए 0. तो नंबर ऑफ सेपरेट रूट लोस है n is equals to p रहेगा, बिकॉज p ग्रेटर है. The root loci are symmetrical with respect to real axis of S plane. Now we have to construct the number of asymptotes. Number of asymptotes का formula है P minus Z. तो P minus Z, तो P 3 minus 0 is 3. After that we have to find angle of asymptotes. You can see the formula angle of asymptotes. तो कोई बुक में M लिया है, कोई बुक में Q लिया, यहाँ पे Q लिया है. Q की वैल्यू 0 से 1 to P minus Z minus 1. तो 3 minus 0 minus 1 is 2. तो यहाँ पे जब भी तीन रहेंगे, एंगल ऑफ अजिम्पटोट जब भी 3 रहेंगे तो इसका वैल्यू इज ऑलवेज 60, 180, 300. तो यू कैन सी. और उसके बाद हमको सेंट्रॉइड मार्क करना. सेंट्रॉइड का फॉर्मूला समेशन ऑफ रूट्स पोल्स ऑफ GHHS माइनस समेशन ऑफ GS. तो इट इज 0 तो एक भी नहीं था, 0 minus 2 minus 4 डिवाइड बाय, तो इट इज -2. तो सेंट्रॉइड -2 आ गया. यहाँ से मैंने एंगल ऑफ अजिम्पटोट्स मार्क कर लेते. ये हो गया 60, दिस इज 180, दिस इज 300. ठीक है. तो जो अजिम्पटोट्स का जो नेचर रहता है वैसे हमारा रूट लोकस भी जनरली वही फेज में बनता है. ओके. तो आफ्टर दिस देन वी हैव टू फाइंड द रूट लोकस ऑन रियल एक्सिस. रियल एक्सिस पे रूट्स है क्या? तो 0 के राइट हैंड साइड में एक भी पोल्स नहीं है. अगर तो यहाँ पे रूट लोकस नहीं है. -2 के राइट हैंड में एक है और नंबर ऑफ पोल्स है, मतलब यहाँ दोनों के बीच में रूट लोकस होगा. -4 और इसके बीच में नहीं होगा कि 1 2 होगा, इवन नंबर है तो यहाँ पे रूट लोकस नहीं. इसके बाद 1 2 3 तो यहाँ पे रूट लोकस इसके इन्फिनिटी. तो यहाँ पे सिंस देयर इज नो कॉम्प्लेक्स पोल्स तो यहाँ पे एंगल ऑफ डिपार्चर की जरूरत नहीं है. नाउ वी हैव टू फाइंड द intersection of root loci with geometric axis. For that we have to find the characteristic equation 1 plus GHHS equals to 0. तो ये फाइंड कर लिया हम लोग ने. एक रो को 0 बना लिया तो हमारे को पता है कि ये कैसे पार होगा. S is equals to रूट लोकस 2 एक्सिस से पार होगा, प्लस J 2.82 से और माइनस J 2.8 से. ठीक है. ब्रेक अवे फाइंड करने के लिए 1 plus GHHS equals to 0 और dk by ds ले लिया तो हमारे ब्रेकअप. अब इसमें कौन सा वैलिड है कौन सा इनवैलिड है वी हैव टू चेक. एक 0 और -2 के बीच में रूट लोकस है, मतलब -0.845 ये दोनों के बीच में. तो -0.845 ये वैलिड ब्रेकअवे पॉइंट है. -3.15 के बीच में रूट लोकस नहीं है तो ये इनवैलिड ब्रेक पॉइंट. एज देयर इज नो रूट लोकस बिटवीन -2 to -4, therefore -3.15 cannot be a breakaway point. It also can be confirmed by calculating k for it will be negative. That confirms S is not a breakaway point. ठीक है. तो यहाँ पे दो वी कैलकुलेट 2 ब्रेकअवे पॉइंट, लेकिन 2 में से एक इनवैलिड है एक वैलिड है. तो ये दोनों पोल्स अट्रैक्ट होंगे और यहाँ से रिपेल होंगे कहाँ जाएंगे? टुवर्ड्स अजिम्पटोट्स, पैरेलल टू अजिम्पटोट. लेकिन ये इसको क्रॉस करेंगे तो कहाँ क्रॉस करेंगे? इमेजिनरी एक्सिस पे. तो एक होगा प्लस J 2.8 पे क्रॉस हो रहा है और एक माइनस J 2.8 पे क्रॉस हो रहा है. यू कैन सी हियर. यहाँ आप दोनों अट्रैक्ट हो और यहाँ से एक उधर चले गया पैरेलल टू अजिम्पटोट्स और एक इधर चले गया. तो दिस इज द रूट लोकस. तो k की वैल्यू यहाँ पे पोल्स पे 0, ये पोल पे k की वैल्यू 0, ये पोल पे 0, ये पोल पे 0. ठीक है. क्रिटिकली डैम तो जीटा इज इक्वल्स की यहाँ पे जीटा की दिस सिस्टम इट इज क्रिटिकली डैम्ड. So this is all about the stability is predicted by the location of the dominant roots. The dominant roots are those which are located closest to the imaginary axis. The branches starting from such roots which are dominant decide the stability. So you can find the stability by using root locus also. So there are some, you can see root locus plot for typical transfer function. When there is one pole, only one pole at -1 by t1, so it goes towards infinity. System is always stable. जैसे मैंने 2 पोल कर दिया, सिस्टम लेस स्टेबल हो गया. एज वी इंक्रीज द नंबर ऑफ पोल, सिस्टम बिकम्स लेस स्टेबल. दिस इज द इफेक्ट ऑफ एडिशन ऑफ पोल्स. As we increase the order of the system, the system becomes. जब यहाँ पे टाइप एक ही पोल था, ऑर्डर 1 था, तो सिस्टम इज ऑलवेज स्टेबल. यहाँ पे जो 2 के सिस्टम थोड़ा खसक गया, लेकिन 2 इट इज स्टेबल. लेकिन जहाँ 3 हो गए तो सिस्टम बिकम्स अनस्टेबल. सिस्टम टुवर्ड्स अनस्टेबिलिटी पे जा रहा है. When type is 1 system is always stable. When type is 1 but order is 2, सब थोड़ा imaginary axis तब की तरफ चला गया. So this is you can see as the type of as the order of the system increases, system becomes more and more unstable. You can see that these are the some nature of plot for different GSHS. For different GSHS. You can see nature of plot for different GSHS. Then the next is, up till now we have studied the transient or time response. Now we have to see the frequency response. This is the frequency response. So the basics for frequency domain analysis. So the steady state response of a system to a purely sinusoidal input is defined as frequency response of a system. In such method, the frequency of the input signal to be varied over a certain range and the resulting response of system is to be studied. Such response is called frequency response. Or we can say that under steady state, the system output as well as the signal at other points in the system are sinusoidal. The steady state output C of t is given by C of t is B sin omega t plus phi. The various frequency response analysis techniques are a Bode plot technique, a polar plot, Nyquist plots, Nichols chart, or MNN cycles. So in a frequency domain, the system can be analyzed and designed using the above methods. Frequency response is the steady state output of a system to the sinusoidal input. Since input sinusoidal, so S is equal to j omega is substituted in the transfer function. You can see when I give a sine input to the system, the output is also sinusoidal. Okay, where A is the amplitude and phi is the phase of the system. Then there are certain frequency domain specifications or frequency response specifications. You know, there are gain margin, or we can say the peak resonance or resonant peak. It is defined as, or peak resonance or resonant peak is defined as the maximum value of the transfer function C of j omega by R of j omega. Then resonant frequency, the frequency at which resonant occur is called resonant frequency. Then cutoff frequency, the frequency at which C by R is equals to 1 by root 2 is called cutoff frequency. Then there is a bandwidth. Okay, you can see here, gain margin, it is the gain which can be varied before the system becomes just stable. If the gain increases, gain margin decreases, and the gain is doubled, gain margin becomes half. You can see the gain margin, it is denoted as GM. It is the factor by which system gain can be increased so as to derive the system to the verge of instability. The typical design value of gain margin is about 6 dB. The phase margin, it is defined as the amount of additional phase lag of the gain crossover frequency required to bring the system to the verge of instability. The typical design value of phase margin is about 30 to 35 degree. Or if the phase angle is measured clockwise. Then resonant frequency, it is the frequency at which maximum magnitude of the closed loop system occurs. Resonant frequency, it is the maximum magnitude of the closed loop system. So this is all about the specifications, just like rise time, peak time, वैसे ये frequency response specifications थे, okay? Bandwidth, you can see it is the range of frequencies over which the system acts satisfactorily. cutoff rate, it is the rate at which a magnitude fails at high frequency. There omega r, MR and bandwidth of a standard second order system. You can see expression for MR or omega r. So omega, the formula for omega r is omega n into under root 1 minus 2 zeta square. You can see here. हमें derive नहीं कर रहे हैं. MR, the value of MR is 1 by 2 zeta into under root of 1 minus zeta square, or MR depends on zeta. Similarly, the formula for bandwidth is omega n into under root of 1 minus 2 zeta square plus under root of 1 minus 2 zeta square plus. So if zeta increases, the conclusion is zeta increases, your peak resonance MR decreases. MP, that is maximum overshoot, decreases. Omega R decreases. Time frequency of oscillation decreases. Bandwidth decreases. Your rise time increases. And stability increases for the under damped system. Here I take one example. Here a system of third order system shows a resonance peak of 2. यानी MR की value 2 है and resonance frequency of 3 radian per second. Okay. That is omega r is 3. And what we have to determine? We have to determine the transfer function of the equivalent second order system and hence find TR, TP, settling time, percentage overshoot, time of oscillation and number of oscillations before settling. We have to draw a sketch of the step response and frequency response. So you can see, you know the formula MR is equals to 2 by 1 by 2 under root 1 by zeta square. आपको MR की वैल्यू पता है तो you can calculate zeta. You can zeta. तो जीटा की दो वैल्यू आ गई 0.2588 और 0.96. तो यहाँ पे आपको कौन सी वैल्यू? सिस्टम विद रिलेटिव डैम्पिंग फैक्टर ग्रेटर देन 0.70 जैसे 1 by root 2 does not exhibit any peak in the frequency response. Hence the extractable answer is only zeta is equals to 0.2589. जीटा की वैल्यू अगर 0.966 1 by root 2 से ज्यादा है या 0.7 तो वो नहीं कंसिडर करना, उससे कम कंसिडर करना. तो यहाँ पे दो वैल्यू आई थी तो मैंने जीटा इज इक्वल टू 0.2588 कंसिडर किया. ओके, तो जब मेरे को जीटा मिल गया तो वी कैन कैलकुलेट ओमेगा आर. तो ओमेगा एन मिल गया. देन ट्रांसफर फंक्शन यू नो, सेकेंड ऑर्डर ट्रांसफर फंक्शन का इट इज फार्मूला इज ओमेगा स्क्वायर एन बाय एस स्क्वायर प्लस 2 जीटा ओमेगा एन एस प्लस ओमेगा स्क्वायर. यू नो द वैल्यू ऑफ ओमेगा स्क्वायर एन, यू नो द वैल्यू ऑफ जीटा, तो आपको ट्रांसफर फंक्शन मिल गया. और you all know the formula for rise time, pi minus theta, pi minus 5 by omega d, where phi or theta is nothing but cos inverse of zeta or tan inverse of under root 1 minus zeta square by zeta in radians. All this time response as well as frequency response specifications. Overshoot MP is equal to e to the power minus pi into zeta by under root 1 minus zeta square. So you can find all this. So this is the frequency response specifications or the various frequency response specifications. Then next we have to see the introduction to Bode plot. This is again important. A Bode plot. So basic of any frequency, a Bode plot is nothing but it is a logarithm plot which consists of two graphs, namely magnitude of Gj omega in dB versus omega on log scale, and second is magnitude angle Gj omega in degree versus omega on log scale. So basic of any frequency response is to plot magnitude, that is m, and angle against input frequency omega when omega is varied from 0 to infinity. So there is a wide range of variation in m and phi, and hence it becomes difficult to accommodate all such variations with linear scale. Hence, the scientist on whose name this method is based, that's H.W. Bode, suggested the method in which logarithm values of magnitude are to be plotted against logarithmic values of frequencies. Such plots are called logarithmic plots, which allow us to show a wide range of variations in magnitude on a single paper. So in general, Bode plot consists of two plots, a magnitude which is expressed in logarithm values, again logarithm value of frequency called magnitude plot, and a phase angle in degree against logarithmic values of frequency called a phase angle plot. The advantage of Bode plot is the product factor in the expression of GG omega becomes additive. Since logarithm are used, we know when then there is log, so we have to add. Bode plot can be quickly constructed because any given function can be represented approximately by straight line asymptotes. So we can find the magnitude, a magnitude plot. We can find the magnitude by plot. The magnitude can be expressed in its logarithmic value by finding out the value 20 log 10 g magnitude GG omega, which has a unit of decibel. Okay, we have to put decibel dB. Okay, so this is x-axis, this is y-axis. In a y-axis, we have to take decibels, dB. So such decibel value are to be plotted against log 10 omega. Then this is the phase angle plot. Again, the x-axis is same for both. So in this GG omega is to be expressed in degree, which is to be plotted against log omega. The phase angle plot can be shown. You can see as for both plots, x-axis is log omega. Both may be drawn on the same paper with common x-axis. To predict the closed loop stability from the frequency response of open loop system, the magnitude and phase angle of open loop transfer function GG omega Hg omega is to be plotted against log omega and not only GG omega. हमको logarithm value लेना है. So for Bode plot, magnitude in dB and phase angle in degrees are the magnitudes and phase angles of GG omega Hg omega plotted against log omega. There are some Bode plot for different value of GSHS. When there is one pole, you can see type 0, order 1, it is simple. Order of the system 2, when there are two poles, you can see. For 3 अलग अलग. For type 0, order 1, you can see. For type 1, order 2. For type 1, order 3. This is the various plot, a Bode plot for various transfer functions or various GSHS. Now next we have to see next is polar plot. This is again in the category of frequency response, polar plot. It is a locus of polar plot is locus of magnitude JJ omega at an angle of GG omega, as omega is varied from 0 to infinity. There are various advantages of polar plot. It indicates the frequency response characteristic over the entire range of frequency in a single plot. The stability studies can be carried out using polar plot, and there are some disadvantages. The plot does not indicate the contribution of each of individual factor of GG omega. For sketching of the polar plot, we have to keep it in mind following information. Number 1, the behavior of magnitude and phase of transfer function at omega is equal to 0 and omega is equal to infinity. the possible form of intersection of polar with the real and imaginary axis of the S-plane and value of omega at the intersection point. So you can see from the polar or Nyquist plot, we can find gain margin, phase margin, various range of K for stability, etc. can be found. Number of right-hand poles can also be found. If it is a plot of magnitude and phase of GHHS in polar coordinates, while omega is varied from 0 to infinity. From that we can get m magnitude and angle phi in polar form. दो की जरूरत रहेगी, एक magnitude रहेगा और एक angle रहेगा. From above equation it is seen that GG omega may be represented as a phasor of magnitude m and phase angle phi, as the input frequency is varied from omega to 0 to infinity. The magnitude m and phase angle phi change, and hence the tip of the phasor GG omega traces a locus in the complex plane. The locus thus obtained is known as polar plot. Point of intersection of the polar or Nyquist plot with respect to negative real axis is calculated as given. So suppose here we take a, let A be the point of intersection, and it is the magnitude at the phase of the crossover frequency. So A is equals to magnitude GSHS at phase crossover frequency, or GM, or how we calculate GM, gain margin and phase margin from the polar plot. So let us consider the polar plot as shown in figure. You can see this is the polar plot, and this we have to find. This is gain margin, and this is the angle. This is phase margin. This is gain margin. तो इसके पोल्स क्या हैं? एक है -1 और 0. The figure shows then what is enclosed. How we find the stability? A point of region is enclosed if it lies to the right side of the path if the polar plot direction is omega to 0. Suppose this is the path, or if the point is lie inside this enclosed region. For the stability of a closed loop system, 1 minus 0 should not be enclosed by the polar plot. In the above figure, -1 is not enclosed, therefore the corresponding closed loop system is stable. और जब enclose कर देगा तो it is unstable. The key point here, it is necessary to convert magnitude to its dB value, or it is not necessary. In polar point, we do not have to convert value into decibels. In polar plot only we have to convert into decibels. It is not necessary to convert magnitude to its dB value or to find logarithm of the frequency. Or the positive angles are measured in anti-clock. This is important. The positive angles are measured in anti-clockwise direction, while negative angles are measured in clockwise direction. So here I consider one simple